God, my eyes look small without glasses on. Hey guys, do you like music?
I do. In fact, I'm a real big fan of penis music.
Look, I'm pretty sure that's not an actual genre of music, and to begin with, I wasn't really asking you, I was more asking the people who are watching this video, so do you mind?
Ah, yes, of course. Good luck with that.
Jesus, where was I? Oh yeah, so I do enjoy music quite a lot. In fact, I listen to it quite broadly. Everything from classical to the screamy bits that you see me do in the video sometimes, down to electronic and even Celtic folk music at times. So you can imagine it was quite a surprise to me when I realized that this Doujin event actually existed and I had been missing out on it all this while in spite of the fact that it's a relatively large event. Although, to be fair, whether or not the word Doujin would still apply to it nowadays is a bit contentious, but either way, it was a very interesting experience, and so I figured let's talk about this one as well. For those of you who have watched up to this point in the video and don't know what a Doujin event is, hey, sorry about that. Bam! Here you go, that's the explanation. You can look at that while I continue to talk. But for this event, it really is a case where if you're someone who's very into music in general, you should be able to find a lot that might be very interesting due to the fact that circles from all different kinds of genres tend to attend this event. So today the event we're going to be talking about is M3. That's an M, then a 3, not the company that created the sticky notes, which is the Australian equivalent of this event. Though that said, the name of this event, which is M3, apparently stands for Music Media Mix Market. So that's one M too many. But apparently they managed to solve it by putting the hyphen in the middle. If you think about it, there are many very unfortunate organization names that could probably have been saved if they had thought of this idea as well. So this event was initially born out of a desire from many of the music circles that used to attend Comic-Con to want to have an event of their own which was centered purely around music. And so in the March of 1998, they held the first ever M3. Yes, M3, not 3M. And that will begin a trend that will result in this event being held twice a year every year since then, in both April and then the second time in October, drawing in 10,000 attendees and 1,200 circles every time it is held. This makes the event much bigger than many of the small events I've talked about till now, such as the other series exclusive ones or stuff like Ponycat. And so it is held at a very different location called the Tokyo Ryutsu Center, which I think I actually found a location I hate more than going all the way down to Yokohama for events now. It takes multiple train transfers and about 50 minutes to get to the location. And even if you were to live somewhere in like Shinjuku, I believe, it takes about as long as where I live, which is within eastern Tokyo instead. And the whole thing just requires you to transfer trains like maybe 2 or 3 times, which is a lot more than any other location I've been to with regards to this kind of events within Tokyo itself. So not my favorite event location to say the least. That said, this event has been held here for the longest of times it would seem, and it's largely due to the fact that this location is really just the right size for it. Because it's not as small as something like a Blue Archive or Ponycat specific event where they have to get that smaller convention center instead. This one is slightly bigger than that, but not big enough to want to hold down an entire hall within Big Side itself, like something like a Comic One or Comitia. So with them, this location, they managed to fill it out largely quite fine, as you'll see as we go into the video itself as well. And it also does come with a lot more open space as well, since all of the lobbies that are within the area, the people who go for these events tend to crowd there as well. Although those aren't apparently included into the size of the location itself, so you kind of do have a relatively big area for people to congregate and just chill with the others. Well, this initially started as an event that was mainly Vocaloid as well as Toho focused, since those were the two subcultures within the weeb subculture that produce the most amount of original music. Nowadays, you can find music of a much bigger variety, with everything ranging from progressive metal to people trying to emulate music from the 80s, up to even people bringing down a lyre. I think that's what it's called, the thing that you see bards play in those Western RPGs. And just putting those on display while selling the music they recorded using those instruments there as well. In fact, some of the bigger circles that attend these events, some of you may already know as well, groups such as Rigel Theatre, Arable Eyes, Iron Attack, Notebook Records, especially the last one since they do a lot of music that is actually in rhythm games, the same for Rigel Theatre. So it isn't exactly that only small names are attending, and in fact many of these indie groups have seen quite a bit of level of success as well. When it comes to the layout of this event itself, it's pretty self-explanatory. You really just get a huge number of tables just being lined up for you to walk past and browse. The big difference is that because this event is one that is more music focused, there is a need for much bigger space between the circles, which is why, as you can see from the video that is playing now, there is just a much bigger walking space in between each of the rows than what you would see at something like Comic Cat or even Pony Cat, for example, due to the fact that you really need space for people to be able to stand around and not only talk to the artists, which arguably most events have, but also because they tend to leave like headphones or the like, so you can listen to the music on the spot and vibe to it. In a way, it's not only a good opportunity to explore new music, but to also get to know the artists behind it, since more often than not, by virtue of the fact that the event is by design meant to be a little more spaced out and thus a little emptier, you are able to take the time to talk to them and try to understand the music better as well. Though if you're not the kind who wants to walk around through all of these tables browsing, since for some I can kind of get it, you look at the number of circles there, and even though it's a slightly emptier event, stopping in the middle of the hallway to stare at a booth does feel a little awkward, especially if they start looking back at you and start doing things like, hey, come here, come here. You want to listen? Come on. And for some people, I can get there's that social anxiety as well, which is what makes the other part of this event quite interesting, which is that while you simultaneously have the event sales going on, they also have a separate section called a listening area within the event hall itself, where you can essentially go in and they'll just provide you with a CD player, cause yeah, I mean, it feels a little boomerish to be past a fucking CD player in 2023, but at the same time, maybe there was something to do with like some of the circles not wanting their music to be ripped into a PC as well. I know some groups do tend to have that kind of desire to specifically get people to buy the CD rather than to just like download it online through something like Spotify as well, so it might be due to that. But either way, it felt like a very nostalgic boomer experience. The earphones weren't even very modern either. It was literally like the big thick ones that you used to get like 20 years ago. I'm making myself sound very old by doing all of this and saying all of this, but just ignore that fact for now. But that said, the area itself is a very helpful section of the event, and I would actually suggest that if you ever do go down for this event yourself, to actually go down to the listening area first, although I think it opens up 30 minutes after the actual event spaces are open up for you to go around to the circles themselves. But even then, it gives you a much easier access to all of the music, since it just lines up all of the CDs there. You can immediately pick and swap and listen to all of them on the spot, rather than going down a line of circles where some of them may or may not have headphones and asking each of them if you can try it, which then some of them, because they're not very familiar with this, it takes a while to set up. With this, you can do everything really quick. You can play stop start different parts of the CD whenever you feel like it. The only disadvantage is that you only get the latest CD for many of these circles, so you don't get to listen to as much variety as you would get to if you went onto the circle themselves, and you wouldn't get the ability to ask for their recommendations on what they think they did the best on and they're really proud to show off. But yeah, when it comes to the event space and how it's held, this is largely most of what there is to it. There isn't an after event like with Pony Cat and Superheroine Time, and the event itself doesn't have massive cosplay areas, unlike Comic Cat, since this isn't really an anime specific one, but more for music in general, although it had anime roots to it. In fact, like many of the circles that attend do have a very big weeb fan base as well, since with stuff like the art that they use for the albums, the style of the music, it is the type of music that typically ends up being used in anime as well, or with Toho ones, it's really the music but recaptured, I guess, in a different way that's very different from the original style of the music that was within the game itself. For some of the circles which you might find a little unapproachable because of the fact that in like bigger events, they tend to have a much bigger queue in general. This is actually a very good event to get to know the circle as well, since the smaller attendance numbers and the fact that it's more focused on letting people experience the music also means that you can spend more time talking to the circles. Like, I think I spent way too much time talking to Iron Attack this time as well, since I thought they were on tour. So I came down to this event not knowing that I'll meet them here again, and so when I actually met them there, we just like talked for about a good 30 minutes to an hour, which, yeah, it kind of killed a lot of the time I would have had to browse the event, but it's part of this that makes the event very fun as well, the fact that you can go down to many of these circles and just talk and chill with them, especially if you are very into the genre that they are into as well. Though yeah, now that we're done talking about the event itself, what it's like and what you can see there, let me just introduce some of the circles that I found to be quite interesting there. Some of the more famous ones as well as some of the smaller ones, just to show like what even the small circles there tend to be like. Because one thing I find very interesting about the circles within this event is that they tend to master their music very well in general. Like it doesn't sound as indie as most of them actually are. Like a one-man group doing his own music actually sounds very well mastered, especially when you compare it to some of the indie events that I've at least been to. With though that's I kind of need to think of how best to do this because of the fact that I don't wanna infringe on the rights of the people who make the music, because I really do enjoy their music and respect them, as many of them are also very small indie creators. So the way I can think best to do this is if they have a YouTube channel, I'll play the music from there and only a short clip of it, like maybe like 20 seconds at most. And I'll put a link to the YouTube channel both in the description below, and I'll put the channel image on the screen as well. If they don't have any of that, I'll try not to go through their music. But if there's one that I really find to be very interesting, I'll put up whatever social media I can find, the best that I can, both on the screen and below. And once again, I'll try to keep it as short as possible so that, you know, if you're really interested in their music, you can come down and look for it yourself. So the first group I want to introduce to you guys is already relatively famous within this circle, so you already may know of them, which is Rigel Theatre. Yeah, as with the previous videos where I did like music introduction, the reflections of the case isn't doing it too much justice. I'll put it up over here. Yes, the Rigel in its name is not the posh or fancy Rigel, more of the blue supergiant star in the Orion constellation. If you're wondering how I sound super smart saying this as if I knew this beforehand, it's because I checked it on my phone before the recording. And it's a good thing I'm actually able to do this because this is the 23rd time I'm actually recording this. So if I wasn't able to say this after recording it 23 times, I would probably be even more worried. But yes, this group was formed by Koichi Inoue, formerly known as Inoue Delta. He was the composer in a group that used to be called Grand Thor. And that group apparently broke up in 2013, and that was where he formed this one separately. And it's not known whether he works with anyone else as permanent members of this new circle. And with each album, he does collab with singers as well as musicians to complete the music. He also has quite a bit of music that ends up in arcade games as well as in some PC rhythm games. So some of you may have also heard it from there. Or you may very well just have heard it from the times that people just upload it to YouTube and you just go into the comments and see people saying like, how could this music not be more popular? His style within Japan is quite unique, at least, as he composes most of his music with a more European Celtic folk music style to it, sometimes adding in a bit of a metal twist to it or a more electronic twist as well. And arguably, when you consider the fact that even before he created Rigel Theatre, when he was working as Grand Thor, that he was already composing a lot of music that had a very strong Celtic folk music style to it, and that he was one of the pioneers of this genre, within Japan at least. Obviously, he wouldn't have been able to time travel back in time to Europe to be a pioneer there, but at the very least, down here, he's one of the few people to not only do it, but arguably to popularize it as well. But yeah, I feel like I've been talking too much without actually showing you what the music is like, so that wasn't the album, I just dropped something else. Cue the music. Also, his album art typically has quite a weeb style to it as well, so for those of you who are waiting for the weeb angle to all of this, there you go. And I also like how he actually gives a more modern Japanese take to this genre of music as well, giving him his own unique touch within this genre. So the next group I want to introduce to you guys are SoundstorM and Amyu-ki. That's me potentially pronouncing it wrongly. It could very well be SoundstorM because the M is capitalized at the end. But the reason why I'm introducing both of this together is due to the fact that they're both actually created by the same person who goes by the handle Kamuyui. You can find them on Twitter. And they basically separate the music into these two groups because they use SoundstorM for their symphonic power metal music, and then they also have Amyu-ki, which I'm pretty sure is just an anagram of their name, so I don't really have a joke for it, to release all of their electronic and pop music as well. Initially, they used to use a separate external singer for most of their music, so they would basically play the guitar, the bass, and everything else, and then they would get a separate person to do the vocals. But recently, apparently, they've been using a synthesizer, which okay, it's not Hatsune Miku. Although, to be honest, when I actually first heard the synthesizer that they were using, I actually didn't realize it was one at all. It actually sounded natural enough that it wasn't obvious on first hearing, although listening to it multiple times over, it did sound kind of obvious. Initially, it just sounded like someone Japanese trying to do English lyrics without being able to speak English all too well. Because yes, they actually did the lyrics of some of the songs completely in English, which gave me a lot of Gauntlet vibes, which, if you didn't know what Gauntlet is, it's another power metal band with yeah, they like to use a lot of English in their music, and it sounds really cool, as long as you don't pay attention to the lyrics, and then it starts to become a lot less comprehensible. Although then again, I shouldn't be one to talk, considering the fact that I'm not really very legible as well more than half the time when I speak. But yeah, I'm not going to play music from both of their groups, I'll just play a little bit from SoundstorM, and you guys can give it a listen as well. Look, for those of you who are into metal, I get it, okay, I get it. It's very cheesy. But then again, if you're someone who loves, like, metal in general, you probably love the cheese as well, so come on, you have to agree that at least it was an enjoyable track to listen to, right? But yeah, finding information on this circle was actually really hard initially due to the fact that they are really quite small. Like, in terms of when you compare it to most of the other music circles we've talked about in the past, this one only really has about 700 plus followers, so not a lot compared to any of the others we've talked about. But that said, I did find their music very enjoyable, so if you guys are interested, I'll put their Twitter. You can actually find their music over on both as well, so you can actually buy most of their albums there. I mean, they're all mostly pretty cheap. The most expensive one is only 1,000 yen, so shouldn't be too hard to give them some love if you actually want to support their music. They also have a YouTube channel where you can get a preview of most of their other songs as well, so I'll put that in the description down below. Right, then moving on to the last one I want to talk about for today. It's one with a rather interesting name. It's called, I can't help but laugh whenever I look at the title as well as the band name. But yes, it's a group that calls themselves Space Ninja. This is the title of the album, but this is the name of the group as well. So the reason why this group is quite interesting to me is because they do a lot of mostly game BGM sounding tracks, which, looking at the title as well as the cover art, some of you might be thinking, oh, but that's pretty normal. They do look like someone that will be making game BGM music. But what is interesting is the fact that for all of their albums, each one basically has an entire plot line going on within it, and it's not like they just have the music tracks alone. They actually have like separate tracks built into the entire CD, purely to give you narration, to give you the overall plot. So like for some of the albums, it actually starts off first with a narration, and then it goes into the first track, and then into more narration, and then into the second track. So they're basically giving you a full like game story experience within the whole thing. And the thing is that they built the chatter as well of the game experience into some of the tracks as well. So sometimes in the middle of a track, you do have stuff happening like, hey, hello, what's going on? Hello, who's there? I can hear you. What do you want from me? I don't know what you want, but I definitely don't have...
完全無敵の機械戦士、その名もグレート忍者。説明しよう。グレート忍者とはアステロイドエナジーによって発動する巨大ロボットなのである。
Did you guys see that? Yeah, things do seem mostly safe. But anyway, when it comes to the music, as you managed to listen to it as well, probably while I was indisposed, the tracks do tend to have a bit more of a retro electronic feel to it. It really is meant to emulate more of the earlier years of game BGM, especially for games like Ninja Gaiden as well as some of the more sci-fi games as well. It's meant to be somewhere in the middle of those, which is where you get this unique mix of electronic as well as sometimes metal music. And basically for me, what I find the most interesting about it is that it really does give me like, for those of you who listen to metal, I feel like I go back to that genre a lot, but like for those of you who know Glory Hammer, it feels a lot like that, where the entire album basically has narration and memes built into it, and it's just a whole fun like adventure thing on top of the music, and the music itself tends to be quite enjoyable on top of that. For theirs, especially since there isn't really much in terms of lyrics, it's something I can listen to and chill when I don't want anything that's too heavy. And when I really need to like think and focus at work on like game systems and the like, this music does get me into the mood quite a bit. So it is quite an enjoyable album. You can really feel that they are just having fun with it and they're not like professional voice actors or anything. And to me, the weirdness and of some of all of that is actually just more enjoyable if anything. It's very unfortunate that isn't too much I can actually tell you guys about the band because of the fact that they are a relatively new band with their first album coming out I think in 2020, so it's not too long ago. And all I can really say is that these are the 4 of them according to their YouTube channel. But yeah, there really isn't all too much else I can say about the members themselves since nothing is really disclosed about them. They're probably too new for much information to even be out there. And they don't have that much exposure yet to the point that people would probably bother to try and figure out who they are either. So yeah, I do find that their music is great, so I really wanted to share this. Very unique game BGM-ish music narration story creating band. But yeah, that's all for the 3 bands I really wanted to introduce. Once again, with this event, it really is one that I find to be quite interesting, especially because I do really like music in general. And I feel like if you do as well, there's a lot to see at this event due to the fact that there's a huge range of music. And if you're someone who's just into more weeb stuff in general, hey, some of the VTubers, not the very massive ones from like Hololive and all that, but the indie ones that also do a lot of music, do set up booths there to sell the music. So while you may not be able to figure out who exactly is the one voicing the VTuber, you could find music from many of these VTubers there. So it might be something still worth your time if there's some that you follow that do turn up at events as well. But that's it. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you all for watching to this point. You might have noticed the order of the videos has been kind of flipped due to the fact that I just released a video last week and I kind of need a bit more time to work on the Sting video as well. So that one is getting pushed back a little, and then we'll do the video for the upcoming event that I'm going to hopefully the week after. So yeah, if you're interested in videos about the Japanese game industry or just some of the worst games in Japan, or more videos like this where I just talk about weeb events or just doujin events in general in Japan, do feel free to like this video and subscribe. Maybe subscribe more than like. You can do both if you want to. Join the Discord if you want to join us in just shit posting, or if you just want to watch me and the rest just chill and talk. You can also find my schedule of video releases there, as well as my stream schedule. So if you're interested in joining me on stream or on videos, you can find both there. If you want to donate some money towards helping to support me making more of these videos, or buying props to improve the videos, or maybe even affording a editor in the future so that I can ensure a more consistent release schedule, since I would love to actually release weekly, but yeah, there isn't as much time for me to edit as I would like to, then do feel free to support the channel if you want to. But yeah, once again, thank you to Lava Lotus for sending me the money to help support this channel. The fact that anyone is willing to do that at all is really a pretty cool thing, so thank you so much. I'll make sure to put the money towards good use for the production of these videos. And thank you to Snorlaxo as well for all the help in setting up the Discord and with all the other stuff on Twitch as well. But yeah, that's all for me for today. I need to get ready for the event itself, which is actually happening on the weekend, since I need to go all the way down to Nagoya for it. So I'll be heading off now. Y'all take care. Have a good day and bye-bye.